Vår nästa gäst är vd för European Trading Services på Nasdaq. I denna roll arbetar han för att fördjupa relationerna mellan Nasdaq och institutionella och stora investerare, mäklare och tillsynsmyndigheter i regionen. And now I will switch over to English and welcome our next guest. Welcome, Björn Sibbern. Welcome, Björn.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yes, nice to have you here. When we talked before today, you said it would be interesting to talk about running market in turbulent times. Can you please elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so the reason why I feel that discussing and also looking back at running markets in turbulent times is interesting is because there's so many things to learn. And if I look at the learnings we have at Nasdaq, and maybe I should start by saying at Nasdaq, what we do in Europe, we run the exchange in Stockholm, obviously, in Denmark, Finland, the three Baltic countries, and Iceland, and we have a commodity exchange also in Norway. So what is our purpose and our goal? It is to make sure that companies, small, big companies, can get access to capital so they can grow and create more jobs. And at the same time, we also want to secure that investors can get in and out of their positions. So during COVID, or in the beginning of COVID, we had quite many people, stakeholders saying, you need to close down the equity market, it's too turbulent, it's too risky. We also heard some saying you should shrink the opening hours. We kept the market open because it was super important that investors could get in and out of their positions. So one of the learning is you have to just make sure you believe in what is important to run the markets. If our systems are down 1 minute a day, it's a bad day, right? We need to make sure that systems keep on running. Another part I'm finding we saw was also the risk models. So when we run an exchange where you see equity trading volume and you also see the share prices go down with 20-30%, which we saw in the beginning of COVID, you just need to make sure you have your risk models in place. And at the same time, we had to run the markets with more than 90% of our employees sitting at home. So it was also a new model that we had to learn and work with, having so many of our people working from home.
Thank you. And as we can hear from what you're saying, you've been forced to deal with significant risk and volatility. Can you give us some more insights on how you did it on Nasdaq?
Yeah, so we also run a clearinghouse in Stockholm, and a clearinghouse is basically intermediate between the buyer and seller of derivatives. So basically, when you have a equity derivative trader that wants to sell something, we stand between the seller and the buyer, and we do the same for our commodity derivatives, which is in this case power. So of course, we need to make sure our risk models, our systems are super robust, safe. So that's one part. You need to be ready to adjust your margin requirements. So I think that was one of the key takeaways for us, that we really need to be prepared and monitor the market situation quite a lot. So I think that was one of the key findings that was important for us. At the same time, and I think this is very important, so in the first part of COVID, we saw equity drops with 20-30%. Then in what I call phase 2, we saw a lot of retail investors getting into the market. And we saw the trading volume more or less exploded. So more or less the trading volume with us, but also with the many banks and brokers, more or less doubled within a few months. So at the same time, we also need to make sure we had capacity in the systems to handle all the trading volume. So for us, it was not only looking at the risk, but it was also running system when you suddenly see a doubling in terms of volume, and your systems just were loaded much more with much more trades than you normally see.
And talking about risks, cybersecurity is an increasingly important aspect, both running the financial and the energy markets. How has Nasdaq worked to strengthen its cybersecurity?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time and money on cybersecurity for obvious reasons, and I think we benefit a lot from being a part of a bigger organization. So our headquarters is in US. And of course, cybersecurity threat towards US is bigger than what it is in Europe. So we have around 100 employees, and it came from 50 to 100 now, working on different part of cybersecurity. So we have doubled the team. We spent much more time also discussing with regulators and other stakeholders in this industry around learnings, findings. And then we also do tests. So during COVID, but also during Ukraine war, in the beginning of the Ukraine war, we did different type of tests saying, let's imagine that our systems are down for one day because of cybersecurity. How would we handle that? We even played the scenario where our office in Venus were out of power. So we also do a lot of scenario testing, so we are prepared if something should happen. So we spent much more time on it. What is important, I was running Copenhagen Stock Exchange for some years, and being a small independent company, you have to spend a lot of time and resources on it, on cybersecurity, but being a part of a bigger organization with much more competent, skillful people, it helps a lot.
Thank you. And another hot topic is the energy markets, and it's been particularly exposed to stress, including the power crisis and price volatility. How do you see Nasdaq's role in supporting a reliable and efficient energy market? Yeah, so as I mentioned, in the beginning of COVID, we saw a lot of volatility, mainly on equities. And I think we and the team handled that in a very good way. The market kept on going. In phase 2, we started to see a lot of IPOs, which was great. That's why we're here. We are here to help companies getting access to capital. What we saw during last year with the volatility on energy prices, we again kept the market open. What we run the financial part of on the power market. We saw significant volatility, and we had to increase our margins towards the different energy producers that used our systems. But I think we managed to stay calm and keep the market open, and I think it worked well. What I think is important also to mention, and we made the decision, and we announced that before summer, that we wanted to exit our commodity business, our power business. So we announced that we have sold the business, and it needs to have the approval from the regulators to EEX, which is owned by Deutsche Börse. When you are in a situation where you spend a lot of time on operation, in turbulent times, you have the tendency to focus a lot of operation. We did that as well. Sometimes you forget to think strategic. So when you have volatility, when you have uncertainty, there's a tendency that you throw all your resources at the day-to-day operation and do not spend the time on strategic thinking. I think we missed also a little bit that from a Nasdaq point of view. But we at least had the time to also think about the power market. We are great running exchanges, equity exchanges, fixed income markets, but we are maybe not the best to run a power exchange in the Nordics, and that was why we made the strategic decision to exit that business, and we found a buyer. It needs to be approved by the regulators that have a longer history and has maybe also a better risk appetite for running power markets. So my point here is, in turbulent times, don't only think about the day-to-day operation. You also still need to have the strategic mindset in turbulent times. And if you would say something or give them something about the strategic mindset and you look into the future, what will you?
Yeah, so I think first of all, I was working also at the exchange side back in 2008, where we saw the financial crisis back then. There was not so much liquidity in the markets. This time we saw a lot of liquidity. So we saw a significant drop in share prices during COVID, but we kept the market open. There was access to capital, which is important. So I think that's one of the key things for us, is to continue to work on making sure it's easy to get access to capital for listed companies. Sweden is known for being the best IPO market, listing market in Europe, especially for SMEs. So I think that's still a very important strategic focus and goal for us. And then we also decided to lean in on helping retail investors to get access to the equity market. The equity market should not only be for institutional investors. Very important for us to team up with local banks and brokers to help them on education, so retail investors get even better exposed and learn more about the equity market, so they can be a part of it.
Thank you. And thank you, Björn.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.